So the first practice is for switching on vagal tone, or for balancing vagal tone. We're going to work with the front and the back line of the body. And the front and the back line are myofascial terms to describe the fascial web that runs up the front of the body. And we're going to work with the back line, the one that runs down the back as well. Okay, so if you go into a state of collapse, just inhabit a body-based if you inhabit a body-based state of collapse for a moment, you'll notice the front line is collapsed. That's what happens, right? So the front line of the body, we've got no bones between the pubic bone and the ribs here. So the front line, this lift here, is a muscular event. And that muscular event is connected with how you think and feel. Yeah? So when we feel bad, when we feel tired, when we feel unhappy in a variety of ways, what often happens is this slight sink in the front line. Unfortunately, this also happens with sitting in chairs. So if somebody habitually sits in a chair, they're cultivating a state of collapse in the front line. Collapse in the front line is going to change the way the breathing works. It's going to change the way fluids in the body move. It's going to change everything. So what we can do here is cultivate a full, slow inhale through the front line and breathe in. You can put your hands on here as well, or fingertips here, and just cultivate that feeling of lift through. A little wave up through the front line, shake the head, jaw release, and then exhale. Instead of going, we can actively go into collapse now, to practice the collapse. Again, a few breaths of doing that. Shake open the inhale, relax the head, jaw, and then actively collapse. About 9 breaths like this. Breathing in through the nose, out breath through the mouth. It's not so much for the discharge, but more playing with the collapse. We're playing, finding out in the system what those two feel like. What does it feel like to feel inspired? Literally, inspired. Big and open, and then collapse. Great. So we can use that. So the second practice of this is to use that inhale, switch on through the front line, shake it open, shake out the neck and jaw if it needs some release, and then exhale into what I call happy collapse down the back line. So we're going to send that energetic feeling down the back line of the body. So it's up the front and down the back. Up the front and down the back. Up the front and down the back. So the front doesn't collapse on the out breath. Okay? So that's the second of these practices. The third one, it's 3 now. Yeah. What we can work with here is accelerating the inhale as we go up. So we can go and then happy collapse down the back line. And get into the wave through the spine here, so we can be going and use the arms as well. But take the collapse down the back line rather than collapsing the front line. So we're getting into the spinal flexion here, the extension of the spine on the inhale, and a little gentle relax on the exhale without going into full flexion, so that happy collapse down the back. And the way you're changing the breath is sending new information to the brain. Instead of the brain getting the information, it's all kind of down here and unhappy, we're getting the information to the brain actually about, oh, there's something changing. Something else is happening. And we do that for long enough, and it starts to change the way the brain works. Another practice we can use for vagal tone here, the fourth practice, is come to kneeling. And you may well remember this from the course we did earlier on, for 1-2, where we're doing the ventral 8. And this is really helpful. Remember, we were lifting the pelvis up slightly on the inhale, so squeezing the quadriceps muscle to lift the inhale here, bum lifts up a little bit off the heels. It can lift up a centimetre or so. That's the initiation of the in-breath. And on top of that, we're going to add in the squeeze of the thighs together. Yeah? So we're going to add in the lift and the squeeze. And what that does naturally, and you'll feel it in your body, is that it squeezes and lifts the front and middle of the pelvic floor, in the urogenital triangle of the pelvic floor. So we're going to get that squeeze and lift here. And when we get that urogenital squeeze, the transverse abdominals naturally switch on because they're fascially and neurologically linked. So we get that squeeze here, that inhale up through the heart, yeah? Lengthen and soften the back of the neck so it feels like you're lifting all the way through the crown. And relax on the exhale down the back line, that happy melt, that happy collapse down the back line. So get that squeeze and lift. And relax down the back line, melt down the back line. Squeeze and lift. And melt down the back line. So there's not a collapse in the front line in that exhale. Again, let's play that again. Squeeze, quad switching on, adductor switching on, urogenital triangle switching on, transverse abdominal switching on, lifting through the front line, through the back of the neck, dropping down the through the face and down the back of the body. So it feels like we're breathing in up the front and down the back. And that's also going to affect and help a shift in vagal tone. So these practices, they're like medicine. You take them daily, take them 3 times a day, and you gradually build up their effectiveness in terms of helping somebody to shift from that state of deep collapse into a state of more full presence, social engagement, and enjoyment with life.